Every morning, you wake up, and the world is already waiting. It's there with its demands, its pressures, and its inevitable rejections and disappointments. Life doesn't pause to ask if you're ready, it simply arrives. And if your mind isn't strong enough, if it isn't toughened, those pressures will bend you, break you, and eventually crush you. I've seen it happen. I've watched people with incredible talent, skill, and opportunity falter because they lacked mental toughness. The first storm of life came, and they crumbled. The first sign of rejection, and they folded. The first major failure, and they never recovered. It wasn't that life was harder on them than on anyone else. It was simply that their minds weren't ready. The world doesn't go easy on anyone. It has challenges for the rich and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the young and the old. No one escapes it. Life tests everyone, and the only difference between those who endure and those who collapse is the condition of the mind. That's why I say, toughen your mind, or the world will break it. What mental toughness is, and isn't. Toughening your mind doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It's not about ignoring pain, loss, or disappointment. It's about developing a kind of resilience, a toughness that allows you to bend without breaking, to feel the weight of life without collapsing under it. It's a strength that comes from discipline, perspective, and preparation. Years ago, a man named Mr. Schofield told me something that has stayed with me to this very day. He said, "Jim, don't wish it were easier, wish you were stronger." That's the essence of mental toughness, and I try to live by it. Why? Because the world isn't going to suddenly ease up just because you ask it to. Problems won't disappear because you hope they would. But you can change. You can grow. You can become someone capable of handling more, enduring more, and accomplishing more. That's the whole idea behind toughening your mind. When you prepare yourself mentally, you're no longer a victim of circumstances. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect, for people to treat you fairly, or for luck to finally land in your lap. Instead, you step into life with strength. You face what comes without falling apart. And that is what separates those who build extraordinary lives from those who live in quiet frustration. So, the question isn't whether life will be tough, it will. The question is whether you will be tough enough to face it. And if you're not, you've got some work to do. Because every day you delay in strengthening your mind, the world gets another chance to break it. And believe me, the world doesn't run out of chances. That's why we're here to talk about the practices, the disciplines, and the choices that will toughen your mind. So no matter what comes, rejection, setbacks, hardship, you'll be able to endure it, overcome it, and even grow because of it. The reality of pressure. Mental toughness is first tested by pressure, and pressure comes to all of us, not just once in a while, but every single day in some form. The moment you step out into the world, it begins testing what you're made of. Sometimes the pressure is small. An irritating delay, an unexpected bill, a careless remark from someone you're close to. Other times, it's heavy, a career setback, a betrayal, or a sudden crisis you didn't see coming. What pressure does is incredibly revealing. It shows the truth. It shows whether your mind is trained or fragile. I've met people who crumble under the slightest inconvenience. A line that's too long, a project that takes longer than expected, a small disappointment, and it ruins their whole day. Why? Because their minds haven't been conditioned to handle resistance. They react instead of responding. They fold instead of flexing. And when you live that way, the world has you right where it wants you, at its mercy. On the other hand, I've seen people walk through storms without breaking their stride. Not because their lives were easy, often it was the opposite, but because they had built a toughness of mind that allowed them to meet pressure with composure. They didn't deny it, they didn't pretend it wasn't there. But they also didn't let it own them. They understood that the world doesn't give you an option of whether you'll face pressure. The only choice you get is whether you'll be ready for it. The truth is, life will never get easier. You may get wealthier, wiser, or gain more skills, but the challenges will rise to meet you at every level. Pressure doesn't stop. The only way forward is to get stronger, to build a mind that doesn't just survive difficulty but uses it. That's the difference between those who grow and those who break. One turns pressure into fuel, the other gets crushed by it. The world doesn't care about excuses. It doesn't pause for you to catch up or hold back its weight until you're more comfortable. It simply applies pressure like gravity every single day. The question is, are you prepared? If not, the weight bends, breaks, and even shatters you. But if you've conditioned your mind, that same weight makes you stronger. It becomes your resistance training. That's why mental toughness isn't optional. It's survival. Without it, everything around you dictates how you live. But with it, you begin to dictate how you live, no matter what happens around you. That's the turning point, when pressure no longer defines you. You define yourself through pressure. The power of discipline. Discipline is where toughness begins. It doesn't start with the big events of life, the dramatic trials, or the sudden storms. Toughness is born in the ordinary. It's built in the morning when the alarm rings and you get up instead of rolling over. It's shaped when you keep your word, even when it's inconvenient. It's strengthened when you choose not to cut corners, even though no one is watching. Every small discipline is like laying a brick, and soon enough, you've built a wall strong enough to stand against whatever comes. Some people wait until trouble hits before they think about getting strong, but by then, it's too late. When the storm arrives, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back on your preparation. If you've been disciplined, your mind already knows how to endure. If you've been careless, the storm exposes you. That's why you can't treat discipline as something optional, something nice to have. It's the foundation. You don't see it when times are easy, but it shows up loud and clear when life tests you. Here's the key. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and that bridge has to be built long before you need to cross it. If you wait until the day you're under pressure, you'll find yourself standing at the river's edge with nothing but excuses. But if you've been building discipline daily, when the day comes, you can walk across with confidence. Think about the little things. Skipping the gym today doesn't break you. Ignoring that book you promised yourself you'd read doesn't ruin you tomorrow. But over time, the habit of skipping becomes your character, and when real pressure comes, you'll find yourself fragile. On the other hand, if you honor your commitments, no matter how small, you're teaching your mind to stay steady. You're building toughness one decision at a time. And soon enough, when the world tries to push you around, it discovers you're not so easy to move. Discipline also teaches restraint. A tough mind isn't just about pushing harder, it's about knowing when not to give in. Think of all the temptations life throws at us: laziness, anger, indulgence, distraction. Every time you choose restraint, you build strength. It's like lifting a weight. You resist, and resistance makes you stronger. The person who learns to discipline their appetite, their temper, their tongue, that person becomes unshakable. Because no matter what happens outside of them, they can govern themselves. And the one who can govern themselves cannot be broken easily. Discipline isn't glamorous or exciting. It's about quiet consistency, waking up, following through, and showing up day after day. That's how toughness is built, not in one big heroic moment, but in 1,000 small choices no one notices. But while no one else may notice, your mind does, and it's keeping score. Every act of discipline reinforces your strength. Every act of neglect erodes it. When life applies pressure, that score gets revealed. So if you want a tough mind, begin with discipline. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're laying another layer of armor. Every time you resist the easy way, you're forging another link in your chain of strength. And soon enough, when the world comes to test you, you'll discover that you don't break. You bend, you endure, and you stand tall. That's what discipline does. It prepares you not just to survive pressure, but to thrive under it. The teacher of pain. Pain is life's greatest teacher, but most people run from it. They treat pain like an enemy, something to avoid at all costs. But here's the truth. Pain is not your enemy, it's your instructor. It's the one thing that refuses to let you stay the same. Pain says, change this. Pain says, grow here. If you listen, if you pay attention, it can be the very thing that forges the strongest parts of you. Think back to a time when life knocked you down. Maybe it was a business deal that fell apart, a relationship that broke your heart, or simply the disappointment of knowing you could have done more. Whatever it was, that pain gave you two choices. Either let it break you or let it teach you. Unfortunately, most people let it break them. They sit in the disappointment, replaying the setback until the pain becomes a prison. But those who are determined, those who are willing to learn, take that same pain and use it as fuel. I remember watching a man lose nearly everything in a single year: his job, his savings, his marriage. It was brutal. But he told me later that it was the best year of his life. That sounds strange, doesn't it? But here's why. That year forced him to take responsibility for his choices. It stripped away the illusions he had been living under. It forced him to toughen up, sharpen his habits, and finally build a life on solid ground. Without that pain, he admitted he never would have changed. It was his suffering that became the seed for a completely new future. Pain has a way of exposing what discipline hides. You can talk about growth all you want, you can dream about success, but when pain shows up, it demands proof. It asks, are you really committed, or are you just interested? And your answer is revealed not in words, but in how you respond. Do you retreat? Do you blame others? Or do you lean in, ask what you can learn, and get stronger? That choice right there is what separates the broken from the unbreakable. Here's the secret most people miss. Pain always carries a gift. Hidden inside the struggle is something valuable, an insight, a strength, a resilience that you cannot get any other way. You can read all the books, attend all the seminars, and learn all the theories, but some lessons you can only earn through pain. You've got to feel the weight of disappointment to understand the value of persistence. You've got to feel the sting of failure to appreciate the victory of success. Without that contrast, the lesson doesn't stick. So don't curse the pain. Don't waste it. If you're going through a hard season, don't just try to escape. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? How can this shape me? Because once you turn that pain into power, no one can take it from you. That's yours forever. And when the world tries to break you again, you'll find you're not weaker. You're stronger, tougher, and wiser than before. The rewards of a tough mind. When you toughen your mind, you don't just survive, you thrive. You're no longer pushed around by circumstances, swayed by every opinion, or broken down by every setback. Instead, you find yourself walking taller, with a different kind of confidence, not arrogance, but quiet strength. People notice. They can see that you've got something inside that doesn't bend so easily. And the reward of that strength is freedom. You gain freedom from fear because you've learned to face it and keep moving anyway. You get freedom from the opinions of others because you've built your life on principles instead of popularity. You gain freedom from the constant pull of distractions because you've trained your focus to stay on what matters most. That's what toughness does. It gives you back your freedom. I've met people who had all the talent in the world but lacked the mental strength to sustain it. They had great starts, but they couldn't finish. And I've also met people who weren't the most gifted or the most skilled, but they had a toughness about them. They showed up every day, they did the work, they stood their ground, and in the end, they surpassed everyone else. Talent may get you started, but toughness keeps you going until you cross the finish line. In the workplace, the ones who keep advancing aren't always the smartest or the loudest. Many times, they're the ones who can handle pressure without folding, who can hear no without quitting, and who can keep their head clear while everyone else panics. That's mental toughness, and the reward for that is trust. People trust you with responsibility when they see you can carry it. It's the same in relationships. A tough mind means you don't explode every time something goes wrong. It means you listen before reacting and think before speaking. That builds respect and stability. When you toughen your mind, You stop adding chaos to the world and start adding order. The people around you notice the difference. They feel safer, stronger, and more confident when they're with you. Another reward is resilience. Life will knock you down. That's not up for debate. The question is, how quickly can you get back up? With a tough mind, you don't stay down for long. You process the setback, you learn the lesson, and you rise again. That kind of resilience is priceless because it means nothing can keep you down permanently. Every defeat becomes temporary. Every failure becomes part of the story, not the end of it. The measure of toughness isn't how strong you look when everything is easy. It's how strong you stay when everything is difficult. That's where the rewards show up, in those tough days, those unexpected challenges. And when you discover that you can stand, that you can endure, that you can keep moving forward, it changes the way you see yourself forever. You realize that you're stronger than you thought, and that belief stays with you. The final challenge. So what does it all come down to? Life isn't waiting to see how tough you are. It's testing you every single day. The question is, are you building the kind of mind that can stand up to it, or are you leaving yourself unprepared, hoping the world goes easy on you? Because the world won't. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with, it's something you decide to build. It's a choice every time you resist the easy path, every time you discipline your thoughts, every time you hold your ground when pressure comes. You're either training your mind to withstand life's weight or you're letting life's weight crush it. There's no middle ground. Toughening your mind doesn't just protect you, it expands you. It makes you capable of doing more, handling more, and leading more. It makes you the kind of person who can take on responsibility, who can carry the load, and who can walk into uncertainty without trembling. That's the kind of strength people rally around. That's the kind of strength that earns trust, respect, and opportunity. The world is filled with distractions, temptations, and pressures designed to break you down. If you don't prepare your mind, you'll find yourself breaking to them little by little, until one day you wonder where your strength went. But if you prepare, if you build the habit of toughness, you'll stand firm while everyone else is falling apart. When that day comes, you'll be glad you trained. Mr. Schofield always said that life doesn't get easier, you just get stronger. And he was right. The difficulties don't disappear, but your ability to face them grows. Your resilience grows. Eventually, the very things that used to intimidate you will barely rattle you. That's the payoff of a tough mind. So, the challenge I leave you with today is simple. Don't wait. Start building your toughness now. Every day, test yourself. Every day, practice saying no to the easy option and yes to discipline. Every day, remind yourself that the world is not in charge of your response. You are. Build that habit. Strengthen that muscle. Toughen your mind. Because if you don't, the world will break it. But if you do, nothing in the world can. And that, my friends, is the difference between living life on your terms and letting life push you around. Choose wisely.